Taemin stood in the cold archive chamber, his clawed fingers tracing the ancient data crystals that lined the walls. For 15 years he had worked here among the forgotten records of extinct civilizations. The air smelled of preservative chemicals and old metal. Most people found this work boring, but Taemin loved it. Every crystal held stories of species that once walked among the stars but were now gone forever. Today, he focused on his favorite mystery: the humans. According to the oldest records, humans had been real. They traded with the early Galactic Coalition over 3,000 years ago. They sold strange art, unusual foods, and technology that nobody could quite understand. Then one day, they simply vanished. No goodbye, no explanation. Just empty space where their ships used to be. Most scholars believed humans were just stories, ancient people making up tales about mysterious visitors. Taemin had colleagues who laughed at him for wasting time on fairy tales. But the records seemed too detailed to be fake. The humans had names, ship designs, even recipes for something called coffee that was supposed to wake people up better than any stimulant. The door behind him hissed open. Taemin turned to see Commander Hyojun entering the archive. The commander's blue scales looked dull under the artificial lights, and his eyes showed the kind of tiredness that came from weeks without proper sleep. "Taemin, I need your expertise," Hyojun said without greeting. That was bad. The commander only skipped pleasantries when things were terrible. "The war?" Taemin asked. "We lost the Kelsor system yesterday. 12 billion people evacuated, but we left 4 billion behind. The Vreth swarm is moving faster than we can retreat." Hyojun's voice cracked slightly. "They'll reach Varen Prime in 6 months if we can't stop them." Taemin had seen the reports. The Vreth swarm was unlike any enemy the Coalition had faced. They were a hive mind, billions of creatures thinking as one. They didn't negotiate. They didn't stop. They consumed entire worlds, breaking down everything into resources for more Vreth. Coalition ships fought with honor and strategy, but the swarm just kept coming with endless numbers. "How can I help?" Taemin asked. "I study dead civilizations, not military strategy." Hyojun pulled out a data pad. 3 days ago, our deep space sensors detected something impossible. Ships moving through the quiet zone. Taemin's heart beat faster. The quiet zone was a region of space where all sensors failed. It was empty according to every scan, so everyone avoided it. Nothing lived there. Nothing could. "We sent a probe," Hyojun continued. "It got close enough to send back one image before it died." He showed Taemin the data pad. The image was blurry and filled with static, but Taemin could see shapes, ships, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. And their design matched something he had seen before in the ancient crystals. "Those are human ships," Taemin whispered. "But that's impossible. They've been gone for 3,000 years. Impossible is what I thought too. But the probe also caught a brief radio signal before it failed. The language matched the human linguistic patterns in your archives." Hyojun leaned against a shelf. "Taemin, what if humans didn't die out? What if they just hid?" The idea made Taemin's mind race. All this time, he had assumed humans went extinct or returned to their home world. But what if they had been living in the quiet zone all along? What if they had technology that made sensors fail, hiding an entire civilization from the rest of the galaxy? If they're real and they're still alive, maybe they have technology or weapons that could help us fight the swarm, Hyojun said. The Council authorized a diplomatic mission. We're sending a ship into the quiet zone to make contact. I want you on that ship. Me? Commander? I'm an archivist, not a diplomat. You're the only person in the Coalition who knows anything real about humans. Everyone else thinks they're myths. If we're going to talk to them, we need someone who took them seriously. Hyojun placed a hand on Taemin's shoulder. Besides, this is what you've dreamed about, isn't it? Meeting the species you've studied for 15 years? Taimin couldn't deny it. His whole career had been building to this moment. But he also felt fear. What if humans were hostile? What if they blamed the coalition for something that happened thousands of years ago? The mission departed 2 days later. Taimin stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel. Peaceful dawn as it approached the quiet zone. The moment they crossed the border, all their long-range sensors went dark, just as expected. They were flying blind. "Continue on course," Captain Yeon ordered. The crew was tense. Every officer had their hand near a weapon control. For 3 hours, they saw nothing but empty space. Then the proximity alarms screamed. A ship appeared directly in front of them, not on sensors, just there, as if it had always existed. It was half the size of the peaceful dawn, with smooth lines and a dark hull that seemed to absorb light. Weapon ports lined its surface, all closed but clearly present. A voice came through the communication system, speaking perfectly clear Coalition standard language. "Unidentified vessel. You have entered human territorial space. State your purpose or leave immediately." Captain Yeon looked at Taimin. This was his moment. Taimin activated the communication panel. "This is Taimin of the Galactic Coalition. We come seeking diplomatic contact. We mean no harm. We just want to talk." There was a long silence. Then the voice returned, sounding confused. "Galactic Coalition? That still exists? Hold on." More silence. Then the voice came back, now sounding amused. "This is Captain Jin Woo of the human vessel, Defiant Echo. Did you just say you want to talk to us? Humans? Why?" "Because we need help," Taimin said honestly. "The galaxy is at war, and we're losing. We found records saying humans once lived among the stars. We hoped you might still be out here." Another pause. "You have records of us? Interesting. Most species forgot we existed." Jin Woo's voice became more serious. "Tell me, does the Coalition still remember the betrayal of Keswick Station?" Taimin searched his memory. That name didn't appear in any official Coalition history. "I don't know what that is." "Of course you don't," Jin Woo said quietly. "All right, Taimin of the Coalition. You want to talk? Then follow us. But keep your weapons powered down, or this conversation will be very short." The human ship turned and began moving deeper into the quiet zone. The peaceful dawn followed. Taimin realized his hands were shaking. Humans were real. They remembered the Coalition, and they clearly had reasons to be angry. This was either going to save the galaxy or make everything much worse. The human station appeared like a flower blooming from nothing. One moment there was empty space. The next moment a massive orbital structure hung before them, surrounded by ships and defensive platforms. The peaceful Dawn crew gasped. Their sensors still showed nothing but emptiness. "Welcome to Haven's Gate," Jin Woo's voice came through the communications. "Please dock at Bay 7, and don't be alarmed by the fact that your sensors don't work here. It's intentional." Taimin walked through the docking tube with Captain Yeon and 3 security officers. The human station looked surprisingly normal inside. Clean white walls, standard gravity, air that smelled faintly of something sweet. But the humans themselves were fascinating. They walked on 2 legs like many species, but their faces were so expressive, constantly changing to show emotions. Captain Jin Woo met them in the docking bay. He was tall and lean with dark hair and eyes that seemed to measure everything they looked at. He wore a simple black uniform with no decorations except a small patch showing Earth, the human homeworld. "So you're the people who think we're extinct," Jin Woo said with a small smile. "That must have been embarrassing when you found us." "We thought you were myths," Taimin admitted. "Stories that ancient civilizations made up. I was the only scholar who believed you might have been real. And now here we are, very real and very curious why the Coalition suddenly cares about us after 3,000 years. Jin Woo gestured down a corridor. Come on, our leadership wants to meet you. They walked through the station. Taemin saw human children playing in a park area filled with strange plants. Human workers fixing equipment while laughing at jokes he didn't understand. Everything seemed peaceful and normal, which somehow made it more strange. These people had been hiding from the galaxy for millennia, living secret lives in the darkness between stars. The conference room held two more humans. A woman with long dark hair wearing civilian clothes introduced herself as Yuna, the civilian administrator. Next to her sat Dae-hyun, a broad-shouldered man with scars on his hands who led human military forces. Let's skip the formalities, Yuna said once everyone was seated. You said the galaxy is at war. Tell us about it. Commander Hyo-jun explained the Vreth Swarm, how they consumed everything, how coalition forces couldn't stop them, how millions died every week. As he spoke, the humans listened with completely focused attention, occasionally making notes on data pads. When Hyo-jun finished, Dae-hyun leaned back in his chair. So you're getting destroyed by an enemy that doesn't care about honor or rules, and now you want our help. That's interesting timing. We're prepared to offer full coalition membership, Hyo-jun said quickly. Voting rights, trade agreements, technology sharing, whatever you want. What we want, Yuna said coldly, is for you to acknowledge what you did to us. The room went quiet. Taemin felt his stomach tighten. 3,047 years ago, humans had 32 colony ships living peacefully in coalition space, Yuna continued. We traded fairly. We followed laws. We caused no trouble. Then the Kelith and Voron species decided they wanted our colonies. They attacked our ships, killed 10,000 adults, and took 23,000 human children to sell as slaves. Taemin felt sick. That's not in any coalition records. Of course it isn't, Dae-hyun said harshly. The coalition covered it up, called it a regrettable incident, and paid a small fine to make it go away. No justice, no punishment. The Kelith and Voron are still respected coalition members today. Jin Woo spoke more gently. We call it the betrayal of Keswick Station. That was where our main diplomatic center was. After it happened, humans faced a choice. Go to war with the entire coalition, or leave. We chose to leave. We took our remaining people and ships. We developed the stealth technology you can't detect, and we vanished into the quiet zone. We rebuilt our civilization here, Yuna added. We have 40 star systems now. Billions of people. We had children and grandchildren who never saw the galaxy that betrayed us. But we kept the records. We taught every human child what happened. We made sure nobody ever forgot. Captain Yan looked devastated. I had no idea. The coalition teaches that humans were peaceful visitors who left voluntarily. We were told you found a new home beyond the rim. They lied to you, Dae-hyun said simply. Just like they lied to everyone. It's easier to forget crimes than to admit them. Taemin's mind was racing. His entire career studying humans had been based on incomplete, deliberately falsified information. The species he admired had been victims, and his own coalition had been the criminals. I'm sorry, Taemin said quietly. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I'm truly sorry. If I had known, I would have fought to get the truth recognized. Yuna's expression softened slightly. We believe you, Taemin. You're the one who kept studying us when everyone else called us fairy tales. That says something about your character. But it doesn't change the question, Jin Woo said. Why should we help the coalition? Why should we send our people to die for a government that once enslaved our children? Give us one good reason. Commander Hyo-jun met Jin Woo's eyes. Because if we fall, you're next. The Vreth Swarm doesn't stop. They don't negotiate. They don't care about borders or hidden zones. Right now, they're consuming coalition space because that's what's available. But when they finish with us, they'll find you. Maybe not today, maybe not next year, but eventually. And when they do, you'll face them alone." The humans exchanged glances. Something unspoken passed between them. "He's right," Yuna admitted. "We've been monitoring the swarm since it appeared. Our analysts predict it will reach the quiet zone within 5 years if nothing stops it." Dae-hyun stood and walked to a window showing space. "I never thought I'd say this, but we might have to help the bastards who wronged us." "We put it to a vote," Yuna said. "That's how humans make big decisions. Every adult in our civilization gets a voice. It'll take 2 days to collect all the votes." The coalition delegation was given quarters on the station. Taimin spent the time reading human history files that Yuna shared with him. The true history, not the coalition lies. He learned about Earth, a world so dangerous that humans evolved to be tough and adaptable. He read about human wars, where they fought each other with terrible weapons but somehow kept advancing anyway. He saw records of the betrayal, including images of human children being dragged away in chains while coalition officials looked the other way. By the second day, Taemin understood why humans had hidden. The galaxy hadn't deserved them. The vote results came back. 62% of humans voted to send military aid. 38% voted to stay isolated and let the coalition burn. "We'll send 12 warships," Dae-hyun announced. "A limited expeditionary force to observe and assist if appropriate. This isn't full alliance. This is us testing whether the coalition has changed." Commander Hyo-jun looked disappointed. "Only 12 ships? Against the entire swarm?" Jin-woo smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. "Commander, you haven't seen what human warships can do. Trust me, 12 will be enough to make a difference." The next morning, Taemin watched the human expeditionary fleet assemble. 12 ships, each one smaller than a coalition cruiser but moving with perfect coordination. On the lead ship, Defiant Echo, he could see crews preparing for departure. A human woman approached him at the observation window. She had short hair and wore an engineer's uniform covered in tool pouches. "I'm Bo-Ra," she said. "I'll be the technical liaison attached to your fleet. Somebody needs to explain how our technology works, and I pulled the short straw." "You don't seem happy about that," Taimin observed. Bo-Ra shrugged. "I'm helping the coalition that once enslaved my ancestors. It's complicated. But Jin-woo asked me personally, and I trust his judgment. He thinks you people might actually be worth saving this time." Another human joined them. This one a huge man with multiple scars across his face. "Sang-min," he introduced himself. "Marine Commander. I lead the boarding teams." "Boarding teams?" Taemin asked, confused. "Nobody uses boarding teams anymore. Modern warfare is fought at long range with missiles and energy weapons." Sang-min grinned. "You're about to learn that humans don't fight like everyone else. We get creative." The 12 human ships moved away from the station, their dark hulls nearly invisible against space. Then one by one, they vanished completely as their stealth systems activated. Commander Hyo-jun stood next to Taimin. "I hope they're as good as they claim." "Me too," Taemin said quietly, "because I think we're about to discover that the legends got everything wrong about humans. They weren't peaceful philosophers. They were survivors who learned to be dangerous when necessary." The fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, heading toward the war zone, toward the swarm, toward the moment when the galaxy would remember why you should never forget humanity. The Kelsor system was dying. Taemin watched from the bridge of Commander Hyo-jun's flagship as Vreth bioships tore through coalition defensive lines. The bioships looked like massive insects crossed with warships, all organic curves and biological weapons that spat acid and explosive spores. There were thousands of them, and more arrived every minute. Coalition ships fought bravely. They maintained perfect formations, fired precisely calculated volleys, and retreated in organized groups when overwhelmed. It was textbook military doctrine. elegant and honorable. It was also failing completely. "All wings pull back to defensive position Gamma," Hyo-jun ordered. His voice stayed calm, but his hands gripped the armrests tightly. "We need to protect the evacuation transports." "Commander, the human fleet is arriving," the sensor officer called out. On the tactical display, 12 small icons appeared at the edge of the battle. The human ships. They looked insignificant compared to the massive coalition vessels and the swarm of Vreth bioships. Jinwoo's voice came through the communications. "Captain Jinwoo to coalition forces. We're entering the engagement. Recommend you clear the center combat zone." "Captain Jinwoo, negative," Hyo-jun responded. "The center zone is where the Vreth concentration is heaviest. You'll be destroyed." "Noted. Proceeding anyway." Jinwoo sounded almost amused. "Oh, and you might want to record this. Your military academies will study it later." The human ships accelerated. Not the steady, measured acceleration of military vessels, but a violent burst of speed that made their engines glow white-hot. They shot directly toward the thickest cluster of Vreth bioships like missiles. "They're committing suicide," one of Hyo-jun's officers whispered. But the humans didn't die. At the last possible moment when collision seemed certain, the lead ship, the Defiant Echo, spun completely around while still moving forward. Its main engines fired at full power, creating a massive energy wash that incinerated dozens of Vreth ships. Then it flipped again, and its weapons opened fire at point-blank range. The other human ships did the same maneuver, but at different angles, creating a three-dimensional flower of destruction. Vreth bioships exploded in all directions. The careful Vreth formations dissolved into chaos. "What are they doing?" the tactical officer shouted. "Those maneuvers should tear their ships apart. The stress on their hulls should be impossible." Bo-Ra, the human engineer, standing next to Tae-min, smiled proudly. "Human ships are built tough. We design everything to survive way more punishment than it should ever face. That's lesson 1 from Earth. Prepare for the worst, and you'll usually survive." The Defiant Echo. Suddenly vented atmosphere from one side. The explosive decompression threw the ship sideways, letting it dodge a cluster of Vreth biomissiles that would have destroyed it. Immediately, emergency systems sealed the breach, and the ship kept fighting. "Did they just deliberately breach their own hull?" Hyo-jun asked in disbelief. "Emergency evasion tactic," Bo-Ra explained casually. "Faster than thrusters. Crew wears sealed suits during combat, so a little vacuum doesn't hurt anyone. We figured out during our early wars that sometimes the fastest way to move is to push yourself with escaping air." A human ship dove through a debris field that coalition sensors marked as impassable. It moved between spinning chunks of destroyed vessels with centimeters of clearance, using the wreckage as cover. When Vreth ships tried to follow, they crashed into the debris and died. The human ship emerged on the other side and destroyed 3 bioships from behind. Another human vessel overcharged its reactor to dangerous levels, creating an energy shield so bright that it looked like a small star. It rammed straight through a Vreth formation, its shields burning away everything they touched. The reactor nearly went critical, but the human crew shut it down at the last second, exactly when needed. "They're not following any doctrine, I know," Hyo-jun said. "This isn't honorable combat. This is problem-solving," Bo-Ra finished. "Humans don't fight for glory or honor. We fight to win and go home. Every tactic you just saw was invented by someone who needed to survive something impossible. We've been collecting these tricks for thousands of years." Music suddenly blasted across the human communication channel. Loud, rhythmic, aggressive music with human voices singing in their ancient language. The human ships fought in time with the beat, coordinating their movements with split-second precision. "Are they playing music during combat?" an officer asked, horrified. "Keeps the crew focused and reduces stress," Bo-Ra said. "Also, it's fun. If you're going to risk death, might as well enjoy yourself. Sang Min's voice came through on a private channel to the Coalition flagship. Commander Hyojun, I'm seeing several Vreth bioships that are damaged but still operational. Permission to execute boarding action? Boarding action? Hyojun looked confused. Marine Commander, nobody has successfully boarded enemy ships in 300 years. Modern vessels have too many defensive systems. Yeah, but the Vreth are organic ships. Different rules. We can crack them open if you give us a chance. Hyojun glanced at Tai Min, who shrugged. Nothing about humans was normal. Why would their boarding tactics be? Permission granted, but be careful. Careful is boring, Sang Min replied cheerfully. 2 human ships moved to bracket a damaged Vreth bioship. They fired specialized weapons that shot cables with magnetic hooks. The cables wrapped around the bioship's hull, creating physical connections. Then the human ships rotated, using their engines to spin the Vreth vessel like a top. The bioship's organic defensive systems couldn't track targets that moved in circles around it. Small pods shot from the human ships and stuck to the spinning bioship. Cutting tools activated, burning through the hull. Human marines in armored suits poured through the breaches. Tai Min watched through drone cameras as Sang Min led his team inside. The Vreth were terrifying up close, all claws and teeth and hive-mind coordination. But the humans moved through them like a dance they had practiced 1,000 times. They didn't try to kill every Vreth, which would have been impossible. Instead, they planted explosive charges on key structural points and biological organs. Charges set, Sang Min reported. Evacuating now. The Marines retreated to their pods and launched away from the bioship. 5 seconds later, the charges detonated. The bioship didn't explode. It just went dark and began drifting. Its navigation organs destroyed, its life support failing. It became a floating tomb that blocked the path of other Vreth ships trying to advance. 1 ship neutralized, Sang Min reported. Moving to next target. Over the next 2 hours, the 12 human ships completely changed the battle. They didn't destroy every Vreth vessel, but they broke the swarm's coordination. Vreth bioships that expected orderly enemies suddenly faced chaos. Human ships appeared from impossible angles, performed maneuvers that should have killed them, and disappeared before the swarm could respond. Coalition forces, seeing the Vreth in disarray, pressed their advantage. For the first time in months, they were winning. Finally, the Vreth began to retreat. The hive mind made a collective decision that this battle cost too much. The surviving bioships jumped to faster-than-light travel and fled. The humans didn't pursue. Their ships regrouped, with visible damage and depleted energy reserves. But all 12 were still functional. Hyojun's flagship approached the Defiant Echo. Through the windows, Tai Min could see human crew members cheering and hugging each other. They had just been in a battle where they nearly died multiple times, and they were celebrating like it was a festival. Captain Jinwoo, Hyojun said over communications, that was the most terrifying, effective, and completely insane combat performance I have ever witnessed. How do you train your crews to fight like that? Jinwoo appeared on the view screen, looking tired but satisfied. We don't train them to fight like that, Commander. We train them to think like that. Every human learns from childhood that the universe is dangerous and unpredictable. Earth is a death world. Everything there evolved to kill or be killed. Predators, diseases, weather, even the plants are dangerous. Humans survived by being adaptable, creative, and willing to take calculated risks. Those didn't look calculated, an officer muttered. That's because you don't see the calculations, Bo-Ra said. Every maneuver has been simulated thousands of times. We know exactly how much stress our ships can take. We know the precise moment to vent atmosphere or overcharge reactors. It looks crazy, but it's actually carefully controlled chaos. Jinwoo continued. The Coalition fights with honor and tradition. That's beautiful, but the Vreth don't care about honor. They care about consuming everything. So we fight the way Earth taught us. Identify the threat, adapt to it, exploit its weaknesses, and survive by any means necessary. Sometimes that means doing things that look insane to everyone else. Hyojun was quiet for a moment. Captain, the Coalition High Council has been watching this battle. They want to meet with you and discuss expanded human involvement in the war. We'll think about it, Jinwoo said. But first, my crew needs rest. We pushed our ships to the limit today. Also, we need to repair the 17 hull breaches, fix the overcharged reactor cores, and replace the atmosphere we vented. That's the thing about fighting like humans. It's effective, but it's hard on the equipment. The communication ended. Taemin looked at Bo-Ra. Is it always like this? Human combat? Bo-Ra nodded. Pretty much. We have a saying, if you're going to do something, commit completely. Half measures get you killed. So when humans fight, we fight with everything we have, using every trick we know, accepting risks that would terrify other species. She smiled. That's what happens when you evolve on a world that tried to kill you every single day. You either learn to be dangerous, or you go extinct. Taemin understood now. The legends had called humans peaceful philosophers. But the truth was so much more complex. Humans could be peaceful, but they could also be the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. And they chose which side to show based on what the situation needed. The galaxy had forgotten humans for 3,000 years. Now it was remembering, and the memory was terrifying. The Coalition War Council chamber was the largest room Taemin had ever seen. Representatives from 40 species sat in circular tiers, all watching the holographic display at the center. The display showed the Vreth Swarm's main staging area, a massive cluster of bioships orbiting a dead world they had consumed. Intelligence estimated over 10,000 vessels gathered there, preparing for their next massive assault. Commander Hyojun stood at the center podium. We have one chance to break the swarm before they launch their final offensive. If we destroy their staging area, we gain months, maybe years of breathing room. But it's a fortress. Any conventional assault would require sacrificing half our remaining fleet. Various council members offered strategies. All of them involved massive frontal assaults, honorable sacrifices, and accepting enormous casualties. It was how the Coalition had always fought wars. Jinwoo stood from the human delegation section. Or we could not do that. The room went quiet. Most council members still didn't know what to make of humans. Some admired them after the Kelsor battle. Others feared them. Everyone was curious. Explain, Council Leader Moran said carefully. You're planning to attack the strongest point with your strongest force. That's honorable, but it's also exactly what the Vreth expect. They're a hive mind, which means they think logically and predictably. They don't understand deception or psychology. Jinwoo walked to the holographic display. We don't attack the staging area at all. We attack their minds. The Vreth don't have individual minds, a Kelith representative said coldly. They share one consciousness across all units. You can't intimidate or confuse a hive mind. Yuna stood next to Jinwoo. She had come from Haven's Gate to participate in the planning. Actually, you can. Hive minds are efficient, but they have a weakness. They're bad at dealing with contradictory information. If we feed them data that doesn't match their expectations, their collective consciousness has to process every piece of false information simultaneously. It creates what humans call cognitive dissonance. Dae-hyun activated a tactical display. Here's what we propose. Phase 1. We hack into Vreth communications and inject false data suggesting some bioships are infected with a virus that makes them disobey the hive mind. Phase 2. We create sensor ghosts, making it look like thousands of coalition ships are surrounding the staging area. Phase 3. We broadcast constant recordings of Vreth bioships being destroyed on repeat, flooding their communication network with images of failure. This is psychological warfare, Taemin said, understanding. You want to make them paranoid. Exactly, Jinwoo confirmed. The Vreth swarm has never faced an enemy that lies or deceives. They process all data as truth because that's how their hive mind works. If we flood them with false data, they'll believe it and start seeing enemies everywhere, including within their own ranks. Council leader Moran looked skeptical. And while they're confused, what then? Then Sangmin's team does the impossible, Jinwoo said simply. Sangmin approached the display, his scarred face serious. We insert a small strike team into their central hive node. Not to destroy it, that would just make them angry. Instead, we plant a virus directly into their biological communication network. The virus won't kill them. It'll just make them increasingly paranoid and aggressive toward each other. You want to board their command ship? A council member asked in shock. Their most heavily defended vessel? It's the only way to plant the virus directly into their neural network, Bora explained. She had been working on the technical aspects with human-computer specialists. The Vreth communication system is partially biological, partially technological. We can't hack it remotely. Someone has to physically insert the virus into their organic servers. This is insane, the Caliph representative said. Even if you somehow reach the hive node, you'd never get inside. You'd never survive. Sangmin shrugged. Probably not, but we'll try anyway. The plan was approved because nobody had better options. 3 days later, the operation began. Human stealth ships moved into position around the Vreth staging area. Their cloaking technology made them invisible even to the swarm's organic sensors. From these hidden positions, they began broadcasting false data. Taimin watched from a coalition observation ship as the Vreth response became visible. At first, the bioships maintained their orderly formations. Then small groups began breaking away, moving erratically as if searching for invisible enemies. The false data was working. Initiate Phase 2, Jinwoo ordered from the Defiant Echo. Human ships activated holographic projectors, creating thousands of fake sensor readings. To the Vreth, it suddenly looked like an enormous coalition fleet had appeared from nowhere, completely surrounding them. The hive mind went into defensive mode, pulling ships from their staging positions to face the phantom threats. Phase 3, Yuna said calmly. Every human ship began broadcasting on all Vreth communication frequencies. The broadcasts showed recorded footage of Vreth bioships being destroyed, torn apart, burning. The same images over and over, flooding the swarm's shared consciousness with constant visions of death and failure. The Vreth staging area descended into chaos. Bioships fired at sensor ghosts. Some formations broke apart as individual ships tried to flee. The hive mind was experiencing something it had never felt before: doubt. Now, Sangmin said, a single human stealth pod launched from the Defiant Echo. Inside were 12 Marines in advanced armor suits. Sangmin led them personally. The pod flew straight toward the largest bioship at the center of the staging area, the hive node that coordinated all Vreth in this region. Taemin held his breath as he watched through the pod's external cameras. Vreth defense systems should have destroyed them instantly. But the chaos created by the false data meant the swarm's attention was divided. The pod slipped through gaps in their defenses, looking like just another piece of debris. The pod attached to the hive node's outer hull. Sangmin's team deployed cutting lasers and burned through the organic armor. Alarms must have been screaming inside the bioship, but too late. The Marines were already inside. The interior of the hive node was a nightmare. Everything was organic, pulsing with biological light. Vreth warriors scuttled through corridors made of flesh and bone. Sangmin's camera feed showed the Marines fighting through the defenders, moving with practiced efficiency. Approaching the neural chamber, Sangmin reported. His voice was steady despite the chaos around him. Vreth warriors attacked from all sides, but human weapons cut them down. 2 Marines fell, their life signs going dark. The rest pushed forward. They reached a massive chamber where thousands of organic cables connected to a central brain-like structure. This was the hive node's core, the biological computer that helped coordinate the swarm. Bo-Ra had designed a special virus stored in a crystalline matrix. Sang-Min pulled it from his equipment pack and approached the central brain. Vreth warriors threw themselves at the Marines in suicidal attacks, trying to protect their core. 3 more Marines died holding them back. Sang-Min pushed the crystal directly into the brain tissue. It dissolved immediately, releasing the virus into the Vreth neural network. "Package delivered," Sang-Min said. "Extracting now." But extraction was never really possible. The surviving Marines fought their way back through corridors filled with enraged Vreth. 2 more died, then 3 more. Finally, only Sang-Min and 1 other Marine reached the breach point. "We're not going to make it," the other Marine said calmly. "I know," Sang-Min replied, "but we already won. The virus is spreading." The 2 Marines stood at the breach, firing at approaching Vreth until their ammunition ran out. Then they drew combat blades and fought hand-to-hand. Their life signs ended 90 seconds later. Taemin felt tears on his face. Those humans had known they would die. And they did it anyway. But the virus worked better than anyone hoped. Within minutes, the Vreth communication network began showing signs of corruption. Bioships started attacking each other, convinced their neighbors were infected with the rebellion virus. The hive mind fragmented into paranoid subgroups, each believing the others had been compromised. The carefully organized staging area turned into a war zone where Vreth fought Vreth. They destroyed each other faster than coalition forces ever could have. "All ships, prepare to strike," Jinwoo ordered. His voice was hard with grief for the fallen Marines, but steady with purpose. "The swarm is vulnerable. We finish this now." Coalition and human forces attacked together. The confused, paranoid Vreth couldn't coordinate a defense. They were too busy fighting imaginary enemies and each other. Within 4 hours, 60% of the staging fleet was destroyed or scattered. The remaining Vreth made a collective decision that stunned everyone. They retreated. Not just from the staging area, but from coalition space entirely. The hive mind had learned something it never experienced before. Fear. In the war room, Council Leader Moran addressed Jinwoo. "You did what we thought impossible. You made the swarm afraid." "We showed them that some enemies can't be understood or predicted," Jinwoo said quietly. "We made them doubt their own superiority. Fear isn't just about physical threats. It's about encountering something that breaks your understanding of reality." "Your Marines who died," Taemin began. "They knew the risks," Yuna said, her voice thick with emotion. "Sang-Min volunteered. He said someone needed to carry the virus and it should be the most experienced warrior. The others volunteered to go with him. They died, saving billions of lives." "They'll be remembered as heroes," Council Leader Moran said. "The Coalition will build monuments to their sacrifice." Jinwoo shook his head. "Humans don't need monuments. We need you to remember what we did and why. We helped you despite our history because it was the right thing to do. Those Marines died fighting for people whose ancestors once enslaved ours. That's the real story. That's what you should remember." The room was silent. Every council member understood the weight of Jinwoo's words. The Vreth swarm continued retreating for weeks, pulling back from dozens of systems. They had learned that the galaxy contained enemies more terrifying than they were. Enemies who could make you doubt your own mind. Enemies who fought with tricks and lies and sacrifice. The galaxy called humans many things after that day. Warriors, saviors, tricksters, monsters. But Taemin knew the truth. Humans were simply survivors who had learned that sometimes, to protect what matters, you have to become what your enemies fear most. 3 months after the swarm retreated, Taimin sat in the Coalition Council chambers watching the most important debate of his lifetime. The question wasn't whether humans had saved the galaxy. Everyone agreed they had. The question was what to do about them now. On one side of the chamber, representatives praised humanity's courage and effectiveness. They argued for full military integration, with human commanders leading coalition defense forces. On the other side, voices expressed fear. Humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too willing to use methods that other species found disturbing. The Caliph representative stood at the central podium. His species had once enslaved human children 3,000 years ago, though current generations didn't know that history. I propose restrictions on human military capabilities. We should limit the size of their fleet, restrict their use of psychological warfare, and require oversight of their combat operations. Murmurs of agreement rippled through parts of the chamber. Taimin felt his anger rising. Jin Wu sat in the human delegation section, his face carefully neutral. Next to him, Yuna took notes while Daehyun watched the proceedings with cold eyes. Bora was back on Haven's Gate, but she had sent messages to Taimin expressing her disgust with the Council's fear. Taimin stood and requested permission to speak. Council Leader Moran granted it. "I've spent my entire career studying humanity," Taimin began. "3 months ago, I thought they were myths. Now I know they're the most complex species I've ever encountered." He looked directly at the Keyleth representative. "You want to restrict them because you're afraid. But let me tell you what I learned about humans." He activated a holographic display showing Earth. "This is their home world. It's classified as a Class 12 death world. Almost everything on this planet evolved to be either predator or prey. Humans survived by developing intelligence, adaptability, and social cooperation. They're not naturally violent. They're naturally survivors." The display changed to show human history. Humans fought wars against each other for thousands of years, terrible wars with weapons that could destroy entire cities. But between those wars, they also created art, music, philosophy, and science. They're capable of both enormous destruction and incredible beauty. "That's exactly why they're dangerous," the Keyleth representative argued. "They contain too much violence." "No," Taimin said firmly. "They contain the capacity for violence, which is different. Every species capable of defending itself contains violence. The question is when and how they choose to use it. And humans have proven they choose carefully." He gestured to Jin Wu. "Captain Jin Wu and his people had every reason to let the coalition burn. We forgot them. We covered up crimes against them. We didn't even acknowledge their existence. But when we asked for help, they voted to send aid anyway. Not because they forgave us, but because they understood that sometimes you help people even when they don't deserve it." The display showed footage of Sang Min's final mission. These Marines knew they would die. They went anyway because they believed in protecting innocent lives. They didn't die for glory or honor. They died because it was the right thing to do. Taimin's voice grew stronger. "You want to restrict humans because you're afraid of what they can do. But I'm more interested in what they chose not to do. They could have used their stealth technology to spy on us for centuries. They could have sabotaged coalition technology and let the swarm destroy us. They could have demanded massive reparations and territory before helping. They did none of those things. They helped because we asked, and because they believed it was right." Council Leader Moran leaned forward. "Scholar Taimin makes a compelling point. However, the concern remains. Humans use methods we find disturbing. Psychological warfare, sacrificial tactics, willingness to damage their own ships. These methods work, but they trouble many species." Yuna stood and requested permission to speak. "Council Leader, may I respond to that concern?" "Please do." Yuna walked to the center of the chamber. "Humans understand something that the Coalition seems to have forgotten. There are no clean wars, no honorable ways to kill. When you fight, you do what's necessary to protect those who can't protect themselves. Yes, we use psychological warfare because it saves lives on both sides. Yes, we take risks with our own ships because calculated risks are better than guaranteed slow defeat. Yes, we do things that seem crazy to species who haven't spent millions of years evolving on a death world. She looked around the chamber. But here's what you're missing. We chose to use those methods to save you. We chose to take those risks for your benefit. We chose to send our people to die for civilizations that once enslaved us. That's not the behavior of monsters. That's the behavior of people who understand that power means nothing if you don't use it to protect others. Before anyone could respond, an urgent message flashed across every display in the chamber. Alarms sounded. A staff member rushed to Council Leader Moran and whispered frantically. Moran's face went pale. We've just received a distress call. A Kelith colony on the border is under attack. The Vreth swarm has returned with a smaller force, targeting the colony specifically. Coalition forces are 4 days away at minimum speed. The Kelith representative looked panicked. That's Settlement 12. 300,000 people, mostly families. If help doesn't arrive within hours, they'll all be consumed. Every eye in the chamber turned to Jin Woo. He stood slowly. How many Vreth ships? Approximately 300 bioships, Moran said. More than enough to overwhelm the colony's defenses before help can arrive. Council Leader, I need to contact my fleet. Jin Woo pulled out a communication device. Within seconds, he was speaking to Dae Hyun on a human ship. The conversation lasted less than a minute. Jin Woo addressed the council. We have 4 human ships in range of the colony. They can be there in 90 minutes. Permission to respond to the distress call? The Kelith representative, who had just been arguing for human restrictions, looked torn. His pride warred with desperation. Finally, he spoke quietly. Please, help them. Understood. Jin Woo sent the authorization. Our ships are moving now. The chamber screens showed real-time feeds as 4 human vessels jumped to faster-than-light travel. Tae Min noticed something important. Jin Woo had ordered the response before asking permission. The humans had already decided to help, regardless of what the council said or did. While we wait, Yuna said calmly, perhaps the council would like to reconsider the proposal for restrictions. After all, you just asked us to use those same disturbing tactics to save Kelith lives. The Kelith representative had the grace to look ashamed. 90 minutes later, the human ships arrived at Settlement 12. The colony was already half destroyed, with Vreth bioships consuming everything. But the humans attacked with the same aggressive tactics they had used at Kelsor. They vented atmosphere, overcharged reactors, used debris as weapons, and played loud music while dancing through the Vreth formations. Bora, watching from Haven's Gate, provided commentary through the communication link. They're using Pattern Delta 7. That's the one where you make the enemy think you're running away, then ambush them from an unexpected angle. Humans invented that one during Earth's ancient naval warfare. Still works great in space. The 4 human ships destroyed or disabled over 100 Vreth bioships in 40 minutes. The remaining Vreth retreated, apparently deciding this target was more trouble than it was worth. Settlement 12 was saved with 70% casualties, but the survivors owed their lives to humans who had every reason not to help. When the battle ended, the council chamber erupted in arguments. Some representatives doubled down on wanting restrictions. Others now argued passionately for honoring humanity's courage. The debate raged for hours. Finally, Jin Woo stood and spoke loudly enough to silence everyone. Enough! The coalition doesn't need to decide what we are or what we should be allowed to do. We've already decided for ourselves. He walked to the center of the chamber. Humans learned a long time ago that power without wisdom leads to destruction. We have the capability to be the galaxy's worst nightmare. Our stealth technology alone could let us spy on or sabotage any civilization we wanted. Our weapons could devastate worlds. Our tactics could break armies twice our size. But we choose not to be monsters. We choose to be protectors when protection is needed. We choose to be warriors when warfare is necessary. We choose to be healers when the fighting ends. That's what it means to be human, having the capacity for both terrible and wonderful things, and making conscious choices about which to use. Yuna joined him. The council wanted to know if you can trust us. Here's your answer. We just saved the people who were arguing to restrict us. We didn't hesitate. We didn't demand concessions first. We just helped because people needed help. That's who we are. That's who we'll always be. Council Leader Moran stood. I call for a vote. The proposal is to grant humanity full coalition membership with no restrictions, acknowledging them as equal partners with full military autonomy. The vote was close, but it passed. Humanity was now officially part of the Galactic Coalition, with all rights and responsibilities. After the session ended, Taemin found Jin Woo on an observation deck overlooking Varan Prime. The human captain stood watching ships come and go from the planet below. You knew the vote would be close, Taemin said. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. We didn't help the Keyleth colony to win votes. We helped because it was the right thing to do. Jin Woo smiled slightly. That's the secret the galaxy is still learning about us. We don't need your approval to do what's right. We just need your approval to do it alongside you. There will be more challenges, Taemin said. Some species will always fear humanity. Let them. Fear can be healthy if it makes people think carefully. We'd rather be feared and trusted than loved and betrayed again. Jin Woo turned to face Taemin. But we're glad to have friends like you. People who see us as we actually are, not as myths or monsters. A communication came through Jin Woo's device. He read it and laughed. Well, this is interesting. We just got a signal from deep space. Apparently, there are more human colonies beyond the quiet zone. Thousands of systems. We weren't the only ones who decided to hide 3,000 years ago. How many humans exist in total? Taemin asked, shocked. We're about to find out, and so is the galaxy. Jin Woo looked back at the planet. The coalition wanted ancient rumors to stay rumors. Instead, they woke up a sleeping giant. The difference is, this giant chooses to be gentle unless someone needs its strength. Far below them on Varan Prime, human children played with alien children in the diplomatic district, former enemies learning to be friends. Taemin watched them and understood that this was humanity's real power, not their weapons or tactics or stealth technology. Their real power was choosing when to be dangerous and when to be kind. The galaxy had forgotten humans for 3,000 years. Now humanity had returned, and they were teaching the galaxy a lesson it desperately needed. That true strength isn't about how much damage you can do. It's about choosing not to do that damage unless there's no other choice. The Vreth Swarm had learned that lesson through fear. The Coalition was learning it through gratitude. And somewhere in the darkness beyond known space, thousands more human worlds were preparing to emerge from their long isolation. The age of myths was over. The age of humanity had begun. And the galaxy would never be the same.